Let me just fix this. That's better. Okay, music. Do the thing again. Hello, this is Sima Dave, aka the Canned Historian, coming at you with my first video history. Now, please excuse me if this video is not up to par with those of your other favorite YouTubers. It was actually just last year that I moved on from using bamboo and animal hair brushes to compose my histories. And I'm still learning the little quirks of this interweb thingy, such as what are lolcats and how can we destroy them. In this canned history, we're going to be looking at the very famous Battle of Thermopylae. Now some of you smarty pantses out there might be all like, but Sima Dave, which Battle of Thermopylae? Is it the 323 BC one where the Greeks revolted against Macedonian rule following the death of Alexander the Great? Or the 191 BC affair that had the Roman army and King Antiochus of the Seleucid Empire's control of Greece, only to take power themselves? Or even the 1941 fight during the British retreat from Nazi-occupied Greece in the Second World War? To which I say, well, somebody's been spending a little too much time on Wikipedia disambiguation pages. Of course, I'm referring to the epic 480 BC Battle of Thermopylae between an invading Persian force and an alliance of Greek city-states. Maybe you've seen a classic movie about it, or a comic adaptation of it, or a dated unnecessary sequel that just came out. While those movies can give you an idea of why and how the battle was fought, I will caution you against taking them literally. For example, history has shown that not even Arnie himself can get abs like that. Thankfully, I'm here to set the record straight so you at home can get a peaceful night's sleep. Does that make me a better YouTuber than PewDiePie already? I really hope so. Conflict between the Greeks and Persians began in the 490s BC, when Athens encouraged Greek settlers in Ionia to revolt against Persian rule there. This made Persia's King Darius a little peeved, and he vowed revenge against Greece once the revolt was quelled. Despite some initial successes in the ensuing invasion, the Greeks caught the Persians off guard at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC, and then celebrated by running 26.2 miles for no good reason. Darius vowed revenge for the defeat and the revolt, but died before the second invasion could get underway. Thus his son Xerxes would vow revenge for his father's death, the defeat at Marathon, and the revolt. There's more vowing going on here than a nun convention. You'll notice right away that Xerxes here looks a little bit different from his movie counterpart, resembling Zach Galifianakis more than a bald, over-pierced Julia Roberts. But while the films didn't get Xerxes' appearance right, they certainly had his craziness down to a T. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, who is our main source for this time period not named Frank Miller, when the Persians were ready to cross the Hellespont, Xerxes ordered for the waters to be whipped so that it would be calm enough in order to build a bridge. He also did the same with the petunia bushes back in the palace garden. Bloom, darn you, bloom! Now keep in mind that Greece was not a unified country at this time. It was made up of various city-states who liked to argue more than you YouTube people in the comments. But when the Persian army crossed into Greek territory, with King Xerxes himself leading the way, whipping various puddles, many city-states decided to rally behind Athens and Sparta in order to defend their homeland. If the Persians were hoping to get to Athens, they would need to go through the narrow pass of Thermopylae, the only viable land route away from the rugged mountains with a decent rest stop. So the Greeks decided to have an army, led by Spartan King Leonidas, to block the pass, as well as a naval fleet, led by Athenian General Themistocles, to control the nearby seas, and a lone F-14A Tomcat, flown by Lieutenant Mavricus, to patrol the airspace. It was quite the perfect plan. Except that it was Christmas! Well, not really. It was Carnia, one of Sparta's biggest festivals. A week-long celebration complete with roast beast and all of the animal sacrifice one can bear to watch. As such, it was forbidden for Spartans to engage in any military activity during the festival, meaning that they would be too late to dine in hell with Xerxes at Thermopylae. In the epitome of poor planning, it was also the Olympics, and all Greek citizens were required to sit on their butts with chips and beer, while way more athletic people do crazy things to make them feel bad about themselves. Or maybe that's just how I watch the Olympics. Anyway, because of these schedule conflicts, Leonidas was only able to bring his royal bodyguards with him to defend the pass. Guess how many there were? Hint, it's the square root of 90,000. Now the movies will make it seem like that these were the only Greeks who bothered to show up. Herodotus, however, says that the other Greek city-states contributed to the Spartan force, and in the end numbered around 6,000 to 7,000. It still wasn't too much, especially in comparison to a Persian force that modern historians believe ranged up to 300,000. But you gotta give credit to the average Joe Ecclesias out there, who joined the Spartans even though they were pretty doomed to begin with.
I gotta sing the doom song now! Doom, 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 doom!
The Persians knew this, and so Xerxes sent a messenger to offer a chance for submission if the Greeks just slowly back away now. When Leonidas refused, the messenger said, "Then our arrows will block out the sun." To which one of the other Spartan generals replied, "Then we will fight in the shade." Ooh, burn. In the first 2 days of the battle, the Greeks were able to hang in there. This was partly because of their typical battle formation, known as the phalanx. Oh, grow up already. Anyway, the phalanx is where soldiers stood side by side like a deadly game of Red Rover, and it was perfect in the tight space between the cliffs and the gulf. All they needed to do was stand around with their spears pointed straight ahead while the Persians stupidly ran straight into them. This made Xerxes super grumpy, and he vowed revenge on the Greeks for their superior military tactics, his father's death, etc., etc. Luckily, a convenient plot point came to his rescue. A Greek by the name of Ephialtes, looking for a reward, showed Xerxes a secret mountain path that would allow him to surround Leonidas and outflank his position. While he probably wasn't a Quasimodo-looking character who was upset that the Spartans wouldn't let him play in their army, he did give up his fellow countrymen to the enemy. As such, his name is synonymous with traitor in Greece still today, ranking up there with Judas, Benedict Arnold, and Steve Bartman. Cubs fans will never forgive, never forget. There actually was a legion of Greeks guarding this path, but they were the fainting goats of the army, and didn't put up much of a fight. So early on in the third day, Leonidas realizes what's going on, and said a couple choice words to himself, like bollocks and bloody hell. Knowing defeat was inevitable, he sent away the majority of his army, including Sparty the loyal mascot, and remained behind to buy them more time. So, this is where 300 comes in, right? Well, no, other Greeks also stayed behind, such as the Thebians and the Thespians, who would rather die in battle than see their favorite drinking spots back home go up in flames. So at least 1,400 Greeks remained during the final stand, which doesn't sound nearly as impressive as 300, so I guess I don't blame these Hollywood people for making that change. Unlike the hack job they did with Pearl Harbor. How is FDR standing? He's freaking standing! Finally, the Persians began their assault. 10,000 infantry and cavalry on the ground, a ton of archers on the cliffs, Statler and Waldorf in the balcony hurling insults and grumpy witticisms to make the Greeks even more depressed. The fighting didn't end until every last Greek was dead, with Leonidas himself shot Boromir style with at least 37 arrows. It took the lives of nearly 20,000 Persians at Thermopylae, but the path to the Greek heartland was now open. Soon they captured an empty Athens, and Greece would forever come under their control. Only not. The Athenian navy quickly drew back to Salamis to defend the Peloponnese, where Sparta was located. The Persian navy decided to follow them there, making conditions even more cramped than they were at Thermopylae. The Greeks formed a line and caught the Persians off guard, and they were soundly defeated. Xerxes got a little bit scared without the security blanket that was his navy, and decided to get out of Dodge with the majority of his army. The next year, the Persians that were left were destroyed at the Battle of Plataea, ending the Persian invasion of Greece with much rejoicing. Which begs the question, why is Thermopylae the most famous battle out of the bunch? Not only did the Greeks lose, it also didn't matter if they lost because their victories later on were more significant. Many historians have even argued that if it wasn't for Greek victories at Salamis, Plataea, or even Marathon 10 years prior, the values of classical Greece would have never come to pass, and it would have been the end of Western civilization before it even started. That means no Aristotle, no democracy, no Roman Empire, no Christianity, no Renaissance, and worst of all, no Greek food trucks, the cornerstone of the civilized world.
Why, God, why?
So, what's the deal with Thermopylae? Well, the last stand of an outnumbered force, doomed to fail, willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good of their countrymen. That just sounds awesomely epic, or epically awesome. It has been romanticized pretty much the day after it was fought, and recounted throughout history in song, poetry, literature, film, and World of Warcraft if you get the second expansion pack. Who cares if it's tactically insignificant compared to the other battles in the Greco-Persian Wars? It was Thermopylae that burned in the hearts of the Greeks when they became the most sophisticated civilization in the Western world following the battle. Until they messed it all up by fighting with themselves, but hey, that's a story for another canned history. Anyway, thanks for watching this presentation of the records of the canned historian. There will be more video histories coming soon, but if you're too impatient, check out the slew of written histories up on my blog by clicking the annotation on the screen. Go on, click it. Click it now! Sorry. Until next time, remember, those who don't study history are doomed. Or something like that.